What's up guys, Mike here, and today we are going to talk about one of the most important moments in NBA history. That is not an exaggeration. In this video, we are going to take a look at a strike that happened during the 1964 All-Star Game. A strike that, because it was successful, has paved the way for what the NBA has become today. Now, I'm really excited to tell you guys this story because I know a lot of you have no idea about any of this. And if you're a fan of the NBA, it's important to know the league's roots, and plus, this story is just awesome. So, let's just jump into the one game that changed the NBA forever. Back in 1964, the NBA was obviously a lot different than it is now. The league had only 9 teams, the sport of basketball was just way less popular, and the players were basically treated like garbage. As even though in 1954 the players had created a union to represent themselves, the owners basically ignored all of their requests. If you think the NBA is bad now, with some teams occasionally having back-to-backs, in the 1950s and 60s things were so much worse. Teams did not have full-time trainers. The league forced players to play extreme back-to-backs, and by that I mean a night game on Friday and then an afternoon game on Saturday, and players were simply just not getting paid enough and their voices were not being heard. As Oscar Robertson put it, they'd tell us they were going to do all these things, and then they'd change their minds. Even crazier, Tommy Heinsohn, the now famous Celtic announcer but president of the Players Association at the time, says that in a scheduled meeting with the commissioner Walter Kennedy, we brought in our reps and they kept us in the lobby and never brought us upstairs. So yeah, that's how serious this was. The players showed up for a scheduled meeting and the commissioner decided he had so much power over them that they weren't even worthy of coming into his office. Of course, based on things like this, the players decided enough was enough and that something had to be done. And so Heinsohn began to form a plan to stick it to the owners and finally get the players what they deserved. Now, let's take a trip back in time to the 1964 All-Star Game, which again is one of the most pivotal moments in league history. Because the players were so fed up at this point, they began to talk to each other in the weeks leading up to the game and made the decision that if the owners did not give in to their demands, they were simply not going to play in the All-Star Game, aka they were going to strike. They simply showed up and told them, if you don't begin to make some serious changes, we're not going to play, and you can go out on the court and tell all of the fans why there is no basketball game going on tonight. This was an incredibly ballsy move. Again, the NBA was not like it is today, and the owners had a lot more power over the players. Sure, not having an All-Star Game would be the ultimate embarrassment for the league, but there were only 9 teams at this point, and if the owners really wanted to, they could basically cut and blackball any player who was involved in this strike. As Jerry West put it, the players were controlled by the owners. All of us felt like we were slaves in the sense that we had no rights. No one made anything then. You had to work in the summer. It was the Stone Ages of basketball. And he was right. The minimum salary of an NBA basketball player at the time was just $7,500. The players were simply not getting paid enough, especially when you consider the conditions that they were forced to play in. So a lot of them decided this was the time to take a stand. This is what needed to happen for the league to exist in the future. But not everyone felt that way. In fact, in the locker room, the 20 players took a vote on what to do, and while 11 of them did say they didn't want to play a game unless a deal was made, 9 of them, including Wilt Chamberlain, wanted to go out there and play the game and continue to negotiate at a later time. Now, of course, the owners did not know this and believed the players were pretty much all on the same page, so the owners basically lost their collective minds. The reason for this was that this was not just a normal All-Star Game, it was also the first NBA All-Star Game in league history that was going to be televised. To not have a game would be an absolute catastrophe, and the players knew that, but many of them were still very afraid. Basketball was their livelihood, and they truly believed the owners could ruin them if they wanted to. So arguments about what to do began to get heated in the locker room until Lakers owner Bob Short made a colossal mistake. First, Short tried to barge past security and screamed into the room, "Tell Elgin Baylor that if he doesn't get his ass out here fast, I'm done with him." Then he told others, including Jerry West, "If you don't play in this game, you're probably never going going to play again. To which Jerry replied, fine. Then I'll never play again. And Elgin was a little more angry as he yelled back, tell Bob Short to go himself. Immediately, the energy in the locker room changed. Now everyone was in the owners can go themselves mode. And so everyone was now in agreement that they were absolutely not going to play the All-Star game unless their demands were met. As Oscar remembers, we weren't quite united at first, but we soon got there. People came in the locker room making threats, telling us we were going to kill basketball, and what are you doing? It was a TV game and we could understand that, but it was something we had to do. If you negotiate in good faith and you agree to do something, you should be true to your word. And so the owners finally realized that the All-Stars were not playing around. This was very real, which meant as the clock ticked down and the game got closer, the owners became the ones who were now panicking. Not having an All-Star game would deal a horrible blow to the sport of basketball in general. The NBA was a young league trying to establish itself, and it just couldn't handle a setback like this. So as the players sat in the locker room determined not to play, the owners came to a decision and caved into every single one of the players' demands. From now on, NBA players would have a pension system in place. They'd have full-time trainers. They wouldn't be forced to play extreme back-to-backs. And perhaps most importantly for the future of the league, the NBA's Player Association was now going to have a real voice and bargaining power in every serious discussion. It was on this day that the seeds for everything the league has become were planted. I'm talking about huge contracts. I'm talking about sharing revenue. I'm talking about things as simple as free agency. All of this started because a group of men decided that enough was enough. They were willing to risk their careers because they knew that this was not right and that things needed to change. So again, guys, I just wanted to share this with you to show you just how important the 1964 All-Stars were. What they did was incredibly ballsy, but it paid off big time. And I've got to say, there is a lesson there. There are going to be times in life where you're faced with a difficult decision, and the easy choice is not always going to be the right answer. The easy thing to do for the 1964 All-Stars was just to play the game. But they stood their ground, and the rest of the NBA should thank them for that. With that said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new to this channel, I do videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and if you love basketball, I will guarantee you will love the videos that are coming up, so make sure to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for watching. You are awesome, we know it, and as always, have an awesome day, and cue that music.
From standing on the corners bopping to driving some of the hottest cars New Yorkers ever seen, for dropping some of the hottest verses rappers ever heard, from the dope spot with the smoke block, thinking the murder scene. You know me well from nightmares of a lonely